And we are live. What's up, everybody? This is Mr. Drew, here to welcome you to another episode of the Andrew Glowczewski Experience. It's going to be episode 325. Continuing the Bayo study, continuing these ink drawings. And, yeah, man, holiday season. Let's just jump into the drawing. I'm just going to draw a reverse. They actually have like the backside drawn here, so I'm just gonna copy what they have there. And yeah, man, let's just get into it. Oh shit, I just saw what time it was. I don't have that much time. Oh well, let's see. Let's see what I could do. If her head is here, I need to draw half. Okay. All right. Let's. There we go. All right. Get the ink flowing. Go. Go. It's so funny, man. I've been watching and keeping up with Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City, and watching all of the Resident Evil content creators that I watch. Hold on, I feel like I gotta sneeze. Hold on. Wait a sec. Uh-oh. It's one of those sneezes. It doesn't want to come out. Oh my god, I hate. It's just like hanging there between my eye and my nose. Oh, it's terrible. So I've been watching all my Resident Evil content creators, and yeah, man, this is yeah, this movie is turned out to be quite something, or has turned out to be quite something, and oh man, like I've talked about it plenty of times. Man, I still never even like got into depth on my take on what's happening or what happened with Resident Evil 8 Village, you know? There we go. All right. Man, so still pushing Village aside. You know, as somebody who's been live streaming and all, you know, for about a year now, and how everything's gone the way it has for me. Everything is kind of like, you know, slow going. You know, it's been a slow build. Shout out to all of my followers. Appreciate y'all, love y'all, you know. And because it's so difficult to try to hold a thought and carry a thought while trying to draw these pictures without making a mistake. Mistake meaning like yeah, I'm gonna finish a picture regardless, but I would hate to try, you know, learn that once I'm in the ninth inning, like, oh, I forgot to draw this piece specifically. And which has happened a couple times where I'm just drawing something, and because I'm like thinking and talking because I want to at least try to say something to get for people watching, even if you're not watching live, but you're watching like later on after I post this and stuff like that, or if you're watching this on YouTube when they go up there and they're immortalized there. Um, like I've been thinking, like, do I want to create create content or put out a video from time to time where I'm you're not distracted with drawing, you know what I mean, but and get my thoughts and my opinions out there. I mean, the whole thing that I'm doing here is, yeah, it's to draw and to kind of give people a little bit of inspiration to create and things like that. um, you know what I mean, because I'm trying to do a whole lot with my creation as far as create animations. Then you know that's what I want to do, and that's my main goal and aim is to kind of draw things. But I thought, you know, before starting all this stuff that I'd be able to kind of talk and draw at the same time. And I'm now like looking into getting a second camera to film me so that way I can you know, y'all can see me while I work. And that way I can kind of look into a camera and talk and speak my thoughts on things while while I draw. So maybe I stop drawing for 2 seconds and it's not like complete streaming nightmare, because you know you'd be able to see me and you know I'm talking about whatever. It's not just you staring at a picture that's not being drawn because I'm taking a minute to pause and talk for a second. Just thinking about all that stuff, and I'm like, man, uh, what I want to do eventually is like do my own like little bit of video editing, and then voiceover stuff, of voiceover my own videos while I draw. Like I have ideas that I want to do, but I just can't edit videos. My laptop's not strong enough, you know, to do that sort of thing. There we go. There we go. Um, so yeah, man, it, it gets difficult, and it's hard to do all this. So, you know, I never really get my thoughts out on all these things that I watch, you know, like the Dune movie or Resident Evil Village. I had a lot to say. I haven't gotten around to saying it at all. I still retain all those thoughts and kind of want to get them out there before Capcom continues the series. And you know, that way I may kind of get a little bit more legitimacy in my voice and my opinions based on like, oh shit, you know, Drew was actually right about that. Like, um, that'd probably kind of be a little bit dope, you know. There we go. Anyways, yeah, I'm listening to Let's Talk Resident Evil, and I've gone over a lot of people's reviews about it. Obviously, I mean, if you're watching me, you probably like have heard about it at least. Yeah, it seems that movie hit Struggle City. Oh, you know what I want to do? There we go. Get this in there because I got those, and I know I kind of. There's that. And then, oh, there we go. Big dip, cross, cross. And then we go back to little, big again, sideways, and then we go little, big, there, and then back to the repeat. There we go. All right. All right. So kind of loosely drew that in. But man, talking about that Resident Evil thing, not that I'm gonna like be able to convey like big ideas, but just little main ideas of like, man, my whole thing is I want like the world in my head is always like, hey, give everything the benefit of the doubt, and everything is all good until after the fact when we all learn like, oh, okay, everything wasn't all good here. You know what I mean? And then once we learn that, it's like, ah, crap. And yeah, with what happened with Welcome to Raccoon City, I haven't even seen it. It's like, oh, how can you talk about it if you haven't seen it? It's like I know enough about the original video games, and I'm hearing enough about these reviews to be like, oh, okay, like, yeah, it's pretty wild what these filmmakers thought they can get away with. You know what I mean? What at the end of the day, it takes a whole team to put together a movie, and how the whole team uh, were like, yeah, this is how we're living, son. Like this is how we doing. This is how we do it in Welcome to Raccoon City. And for it to be like, yeah, man, like for that to have continued throughout the entire production, and everybody just like high five each other and be like, yeah, we made a movie. Like, man, it's it's wild. It's wild what I'm hearing, man. The liberties taken. So I don't know. I'd like to just talk also as like someone who writes, like now that I've written my own story and I've done a lot of research and I'm doing my best to while I work on this concept design to really hunker down on my story elements and make sure that like things are uh, make sense, and the sequentially, like, everything works out well as well. You know what I mean? And I'm always talking about how the story that I've written, that I'm working on, is like this big story. Oh, the story is so big. Like, um, and it's true, it is. And I'm very proud of it and everything like that. But with that said, like, with this Welcome to Raccoon City thing, like, I mean, essentially what they did was try to put too much into too little. You know what I mean? They had like a however long movie, and they tried to stuff all this content into it, and it didn't work out. Uh, Resident Evil has been around forever. It shouldn't be too hard to try to decide, like, how do you want to tell this movie, because you definitely want to give it the respect that it deserves. You know, like, nobody wants to, like, create a Resident Evil movie and say, like, oh, fuck them. Like, it's not it's not about that. Um, and you start with nothing. Like, just like when I start these drawings, and these were blank squares, and now I'm filling them in with something. Like, there's a plan that goes into that. There's a beginning, there's a middle, there's an end, and it's part of everything that I kind of talk about here when I'm like, oh, I wish, I can kind of carry my thoughts while working on these things a little bit more. So that way I could make the entire video, these streams and these videos, a lot more entertaining. Uh, but that'll be to come. Hopefully, anybody and everyone who watches these things are, they're rooting for me. They want to see, like, what I continue to do. You know what I mean? And trust me, after the holiday season, because a lot of my money is going to gifts and things like that. Um, but yeah, once we hit January, once I make sure all my taxes get done and taken care of, and make sure I pay all my money to the government, however much I'm gonna pay, because we know we always gotta give give it up. Once all that's said and done, and then I'm ready to, like, okay, like, my savings is good, everything is good. Now I gotta get to making a play for what I'm gonna put some money down towards my business here. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna get that camera and all that other stuff, and then at least it'll be a step up, and then all that. But anyways, what am I talking about? Raccoon City and writing a story and all that. So I think what should have happened, respect and all that other stuff, whatever, is like, yo, why were you trying to stuff so much into so little? And then you didn't even stuff everything in there. Like, we have all these games, and you go for the top shelf shit, uh, but with no respect for it. Where it's like, not one person at any point say, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, let's not do too much. Like we've stepped into, because trilogies and big movies and things being told, stories being told over the course of a trilogy or a 10-episode season, something like that. Like, people are getting used to telling larger stories, so people want to tell larger stories now, and that's all fine and dandy. It makes sense, but uh, you gotta know how to control all that storytelling. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you want to tell Resident Evil 1, and you want to tell Resident Evil 2, and they probably even had a little bit of Resident Evil 3 in there. So it's like, okay, you want to pull content from the first 3 games in all this story. Like, cool. You want to write a synopsis or something the way that you feel all of this is going to go down? Cool. Like, but we're only making one movie at the moment, So this one movie, we got to represent, and we're probably not going to throw all the story of all three of those games in at one time. Like we got to respect this shit. There's a lot. There's a lot to these things. There's a lot of monsters, a lot of main characters, and a lot of plot and shit like that. There's just a lot to go around. So we're not going to be able to fit all that content from these three games into one movie. But I like where your head's at, and let's we can hammer out the long form story that we would love to tell over the course of 2 or 3 movies. But let's just focus on the one movie, and once we get the long story out of the way, let's zoom in and enhance on the whatchamacallit, like perhaps the first game or whatever, like the stuff that happened in the beginning of the series, which would be the first game. But also I argue like Resident Evil 0, which I don't think they included at all in the Welcome to Raccoon City. Not saying they needed to, but if you're going to be telling all these stories and you want to do respect and da 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 da, it's like, okay, well, if you can tell Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 0, that's a whole lot of story on its own, but you could tell that much and set up for a sequel for Resident Evil 2 and 3. You know? So yeah, I'm listening to these guys doing their spoiler part of the movie, which is fine. Like I don't need to hear it at this point. I've heard enough. Um, but yeah, oh shit, I gotta get the skin in there. That's right. Um, so yeah, I think if you're gonna write a Resident Evil movie and you want to try to like get as much in as you can over the course of, let's say, a trilogy, and be honest and cool with the material, like you have to, you got to constrain yourself, even if you're excited to get to the actual Raccoon City, which is, it's the main course. You know what I mean? Raccoon City is the main course of the Resident Evil world. I think everything after that just starts to get like, it's worldwide and it's a planetary level thing and whatever, which is cool. But I would say if you're gonna write a first movie, if I was to write a first movie and I was trying to get everything and I had to, you know what I mean, do more than just the first game, I would do Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil 1. You know what I mean? You focus on the STARS members, and here's the thing about STARS. STARS is from Raccoon City. So even if you're writing a movie and you're focusing on STARS only, you can start the movie in Raccoon City, where it's like we're meeting the Stars team members, and we're meeting the Alpha team and the Bravo team, and it's like, okay, you know, you get the whole movie breakdown sort of thing of like Alpha team is gonna go to uh you know, they would even have to start it with like, hey guys, we've been getting a lot of disappearances and murders going on in the forest. It's around this area. You know, there's a Spencer mansion. Da 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 da. I mean, it's probably a bear out there. So you know, this is just a reconnaissance mission. Like, let's just go in there and find out what it is. But we, you know, you guys are a special team, and this is like a special case. So we need you guys to kind of go in and check that sort of stuff out. And that could be it. Like, it's not even that big of a deal. Like, these people are, you know, Star's team would be like, what? You're using us to go find a bear in the forest, whatever. Like we're just doing some bullshit recon. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, okay, so all the disappearing people are happening within this area. You know, we got there's some train tracks that run through it. So you know, we're gonna have Alpha Team survey the land around the Spencer Mansion, and then we're gonna have Bravo Team. We're gonna check out the train area. You know what I mean? We'll see what's going on, cause shit is funky out here. Um, and then just through the Stars team members, you can introduce more of the story without even really getting into it, because in Resident Evil, uh, in Zero, you have that the girl and the criminal, and the girl is the main, would be the main in the as far as like the Bravo team of all of this. What's her name, Rebecca or something like that. Like, she would be the main because she's part of Stars, and then you have Jill and Chris from Resident Evil 1 who are also a part of Stars. And you know what I mean, you could have Chris like on the phone, maybe checking, you know, either getting a voicemail or a text message. I don't know if they had text messages back in '98. If you're gonna be doing it like time, you know what I mean? Like if 1998 actually had to be a part of the story. But whatever it is, you could have Chris in some sort of communication with his sister, where the sister's just like, you know, hey, you know, coming to town, uh, you know, whatever. Or maybe Chris is like, hey, I gotta go on this stupid mission, you know, search for a bear, lol. And and then she's just like, all right, cool, be careful, see you soon. And then that's all we get of Claire. Like, there is no Claire in the first movie, but at least there's like like a little shout out to her. You know what I mean? Where it's like, if the movie's good and we get a sequel and we know that we've already gone through Resident Evil 0 and 1 storyline, it's like, oh, okay. Well, there's definitely a Claire in this universe. Chances are, in a sequel, there will be a Claire who's showing up to Raccoon City looking for her brother Chris. You know, the plot of the second video game. So there's that. You can have it while you're in the RPD station and Stars members are like kind of gearing up for it. Like all the regular cops kind of like shit talking them or being like, oh, look, it's the Stars members, blah, blah, blah. Like regular RPD guys. And not even give a shout out to Leon, but just like signs and posters on the set in the background of like it saying, you know, now hiring or now recruiting or, you know, recruit training or something like that, just to give the sense of like, oh, the RPD is looking for new recruits. Or maybe because we know that in the plot of the second game, Leon's getting, you know, Leon's a newbie. He's not even there for the shits. You know what I mean? Like, he shows up after the fact of everything happening. You know, with Resident Evil Outbreak and Resident Evil 0 and 1. Like, it's only until after that that Leon shows up, so he wouldn't even really be a thing. You know, I believe it's what the game takes place like a month after. So it's just like, okay. Um, But either way, you just show like you give some sort of thing to give Leon a shout out, but no big deal about it. Maybe just something in the background where, people who watch movies frame by frame can break it down and be like, oh, look, they were recruiting, or oh, look, somebody was, they were putting together a welcome Leon sign. Like here's all the accoutrement of the, when you go into that whatever room in the RPD in the second game and you see the welcome Leon sign and stuff like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's just a way for it to have been done, and it wasn't. No movies, no form of like media, animated, live action, otherwise for Resident Evil have done it. And but that's how you set all this up, and then you have the breakdown, the dossiers, and Alpha team is gonna go here, Bravo team's gonna go there, and then whatever helicopter crashes or something, we see Barry, Chris, uh, Jill, Wesker, uh, Rebecca. Like we see everybody. And then that's when like kind of game elements start to come in. The dogs, you can have dogs chasing them in the forest. And the A story would be all the mansion stuff, and then the B story would be all the Resident Evil Zero stuff. And then we all know that Rebecca ends up in the mansion at some point, anyways. So it's like Rebecca just has this kind of side thing, and I think she dies in the game, or maybe there's like a choice whether she dies or not, like depending on how you play the game or something like that. So it's like, okay, you do that. You know what I mean? I would say let her live. But like obviously Resident Evil Zero's storyline within this make believe movie I'm kind of writing off the cuff as I draw this uh, is um, nothing crazy. Like it's not that much. It's just like, oh yeah, we went to the train, shit got crazy. What criminal? No, definitely did not run into a hot, handsome criminal guy who I let go because I'm an officer of the law and I uphold it. Of course, there was no criminal survivors or anything like that. You know what I mean? However much of that story we see, but we know that we have to get Rebecca from the train to the mansion, and and then obviously I forget the criminal guy's name, the secondary character or the other main character of in Resident Evil Zero, that guy, whatever his name is. So I mean, that all is what you could do that, and by the time I forget how far into the first game you are when you have the opportunity to meet Rebecca, but either way, like that's a timestamp for you, as far as like filming and production and all that stuff, and making sure that you're cool and you're getting things right. Like having Rebecca show up at the right time would kind of be cool. It would be like, oh man, they're hitting all the points. You know what I mean? Um, um, And that's another thing I saw in the trailer. They just mentioned Hunk, and I was just thinking about Hunk too. And I was just like, does Hunk have anything to do with Resident Evil 1 and 0? But he doesn't. That's why I was like, do I even mention him or not? But it's like, um, another thing I was thinking about is like, if you really want to set up Claire beyond just like the text message and things like that, like maybe you see her, like the actress receiving Chris's response text on the other end, and then she hops on a motorcycle and she's not in Raccoon City, like she's like way out there. I was even thinking like Claire on the motorcycle in the beginning of the movie receiving the text message is like in this really cool, good looking, healthy looking place environment, and hops on her motorcycle, rides through, and then sometime in the middle of the movie we kind of cut back to her. Maybe she's been sending texts to Chris, but Chris isn't receiving them, and she's like checking her phone to be like, oh man, he still hasn't responded to my text. And we see her, and wherever she's riding her motorcycle in the middle of the movie is kind of like a more desolate place, and then maybe a car drives past her, and the car has like something written on it getting the fuck out of Dodge, getting the fuck out of Raccoon City, or anywhere but Raccoon City. uh, uh, you know what I mean? Maybe they have a Raccoon City or bus sign on it, but then they cross it out. Where like we are getting the fuck out of, like, just a car as she's on the highway where like the environment is a little more desolate than where she started her motorcycle ride in the beginning of the movie, to kind of show like she went, the land, the environment itself of where Raccoon City is located is just a little more dreary. It's a little more like unsafe. It's a little more like you gotta be a little more cautious around there, because it's like, yo, why does this place feel ominous? Like there's a bomb about to go off. You know what I mean? And us as viewers are like, oh shit, she's getting closer to Raccoon City. You could tell because everything is starting to look a little shittier. You know what I mean? um, but again, just a subtle thing in the background, not really doing anything. But if you wanted to get a Claire in there, that's how I would do it. And um, you know, let's see what else. And then you just stick to the story. Wesker's a bad guy. If you're in the RPD, you have the police chief there. He's a bad guy. Maybe you're cutting to him, doing some funky shit. Like maybe you have like little weird things like funerals going on where there's young hot girls, like hot blondes. Cause didn't the chief, like, he was like really fucking up really cute hot blondes or something like that. Like you could have a funeral being held for a really hot blonde, and not even saying nothing. It's just like, oh, hot blondes are dying. I know what that means. Like, you know what I'm saying? Um, and these are just like kind of cutaway shots or cut through, shots that just kind of happen. Um, and you kind of just throw them in there from like transitioning or whatever the hell, because maybe the stars members are trying to report back, to the city, and then they're not getting any contact from the city. So anytime we're cutting to and from, we kind of see like Raccoon City from time to time, like just not getting any better or something like that. Either way. Um, you know what I mean? And I'm not even talking about writing a story because the story is already written. Like the video games are the story. You know what I mean? You don't have to write the story. It's all about just how do you convey that story and all that stuff into a film. And it's like, you gotta build onto the world. You gotta contribute to it. And we don't really get to see much of like of the blondes dying. We don't get to see much of like where Claire is coming from. We don't get to see much of like Chris kind of not being, not socializing with Claire as much because he's always on the move, going this way, that way. And her whole story in the game is like, I'm trying to find Chris. I'm trying to find Chris. I went over here looking for Chris. I gotta go there. Chris went over there, so that's where I'm going. Like, that's her whole thing. Is like she's always just following Chris, and it's like, well, why doesn't Chris ever just hold the fuck up and like let her catch up for a second? And we get to see that in like however in his story. You know what I mean? Because we know what Chris does. He's going in there. He's making enemies with Wesker. Like we get it. Like we get where it's going. Just do some dope ass cinematic shit. Just on the way there, show us parts of the world that we don't know, or that we don't really get to see. That's just like in our head canon, or that we get to presume happens, or you know what I mean. But when we actually get to see it, it's like, oh, that's dope. Oh my God, they actually showed us like Chris ignoring her texts. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe he's not ignoring her texts. Maybe he just doesn't have signal because the Spencer Mansion is like away from the city. So there's no like towers that reach because he has shitty Verizon service or something like that. I shouldn't say Verizon. I have Verizon. But you know what I mean? Like whatever brand. um, so and it's like, oh, Chris never got back to her because he's the only communication that was working for him was the radio from the police station, the walkie-talkie police station radio. So that's why he was all rah rah rah, business business business, just because those was the only ones that he actually got like communications from. Oh, poor Claire. Poor girl has to chase down her brother, and her brother doesn't even know. Whatever it is, but these are all just like little tiny throwaway ideas to enhance the story, because the stories are already good. You know what I mean? And honestly, I would also try to like focus a little bit more on the villains of the Resident Evil world, because they're so crazy in the video games. Like they're so operatic that it's like, oh man, you know what I'm saying? Like the villains in the Resident Evil series are all so grandiose and gauche. Not even gauche. I'm using, but they're just like yeah, grandiose, man. That it's like, man, you got to humanize them, because I don't believe this person. I don't believe them for a second. Oh yeah, even talking about Ada Wong. Um, you can have like the police chief or whoever's like sending STARS members out, being like, hey guys, this is important mission because we're having the FBI breathe down our necks. And then just having FBI kind of getting a shout out, because it's like, oh, the FBI, that's what Ada claims she is, but she isn't. That's why she would claim to be an FBI, is because the FBI was actually curiously looking into what was all the happenings of Raccoon City for some reason. You know what I mean? And people are like, FBI, like it's not, a bear isn't that serious. Like, what are you talking about? Exactly, guys. That's why we need to get this mission done, report it, just get it done so we can move the fuck on and get back to, busting these criminals, these crazy people, you know, uh, the homeless issue of people biting, da 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 da, and all, whatever's going on. Um, but you just say all these things in the dialogue, kind of just in passing, and then you let the movie be the movie. They go to the mansion, they discover the zombie. You get the zombie head turn that we all know and love. You know you. Oh yeah, let me. I almost forgot. I gotta do the pattern in white before I throw down the black inks for the leather. Give me a second. While I have the brush out, let me just. All right. Um, and yeah, that would be the first movie. You kind of open it, you send the choppers in. The one chopper gets shot down, ends up kind of wrecking at the train. Um, the other guys, they're down. Chris lights up his cigarette, and they're under. You know they're not like fully equipped for the situation. You get the dog attack, and they run in and they're like, "What the fuck? That wasn't a bear. Is that what's been eating these people? What the fuck is that?" Then they go for the door, and the dogs. You got the zombie dogs at the door, and you're like, "Fuck that! I ain't going out there." All right, guys. Well, we're here. Let's try to, see who's in this mansion, and try to reach out and contact headquarters to talk about whatever. Chopper went down. Figure out, let's get our orders now that shit is already getting funky. And yeah, man, I don't know. Um, what else? And yeah, you tell the story of the train real quick. Rebecca ends up at the mansion where the rest of the team has been, and you tell that story, and you have them go through all the stuff. Oh yeah, that's where I was at. The zombie head turn. You're dealing with zombies, and they're like, "What the fuck? What is going on here? Where are the people? Where are the Spencers of this Spencer mansion at? Like, what is going on here?" You can have all of that. Oh yeah, the fuzzy gloves come up to here. There you go. There we go. And then yeah, man, you just kind of have these stars members who've been built up to be this top of the top of the top of Raccoon City, this dying city. Um, and then all their operatives are trying to face this are thrust into this situation which they weren't prepared for. All they have is a lockpick and a fucking lighter and shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then like the backstabbing Wesker's in there, like fucking it up for them. Uh, okay. You know, you put all the monsters in there. You put Yawn, the giant snake. You know what I mean? You don't skimp on the monsters. You get all the zombies. They're just little bullshit people with bad prosthetics on. Like, okay, like get them out of the way. You get the hunters because you know you want to get to the city in the sequel where you're going to have hunters and shit as well, but you want to get the monsters in there at the very least a tiny bit. And you know, if you're telling the story of like the main bad guys, I forget what the main bad guy is in Resident Evil Zero. Like I know that they had like those like leeches type of monster parasite thing, but other than that, like they um oh yeah, yeah. um but yeah, I mean the and I would even say the train's not even all that important. Like, yeah, you can have some leechy monsters in there, whatever, but just stick to like the zombies. I forget if they had hunters. They had like what, like giant spiders or crabs in there, like weird wonky shit. Like, I mean, I guess you can have all that. Like, why not? But I wouldn't even really focus on it too much outside of just like you had an Alpha team, you had a Bravo team, you had Rebecca who was at the train but ends up at the mansion where Alpha team is. You know, we learn that Bravo team is all dead, or you know, or Alpha team learns that Bravo team is all dead. Uh, kind of, I'm guessing it's kind of midway through where you know you run into Rebecca, and you know that way you kind of add to the dreariness of the situation that Alpha Team finds himself in, where they're like, oh man, you know, maybe the whole time they're like, I hope Bravo's okay. I hope Bravo's okay. You know, I haven't been able to get a hold of Bravo, but you know, let's just hope for the best and whatever. So that way, when they run into Rebecca, you know, somewhere along midway through the movie, it's like, oh no, they're completely wiped out, and there are no survivors, and that train is fucked up. Like I can't even remember the ending of Zero at the moment. I don't know if the train blows up or something, but either way, it's like, yeah, that train was fucked up. And then they're like, oh shit. Like, so the monsters aren't just in this mansion. And then and Bravo teams down. Like we were kind of depending on them for backup or something like that, or for supplies or something like that. You know what I mean? And now they don't even, like, they learn they're not even gonna get that much. And then you just add to like the building tension and everything else like that of you know, just any movie. That's how it goes. Things get like worse and worse as the movie like reaches the climax. And yeah, so you have that, and then all the bad guys, you know, plant monsters and snake monster. Uh, who else? Whatever's in there is in there, and then it all, you know, the meanwhile, while all that is going on, you got Barry like kind of half trying to kill them, and then you have like Wesker's never not answering any of their calls, and it's like, where the fuck is Wesker at? And you know what I mean? Because they don't know he's a traitor. And yeah, then you just go to the tyrant. You have the mansion, you know, blowing itself up at the end. You know what I mean? You have Barry, uh, you know, trying to kill them, but then not killing them, and then like, oh, they have my daughter, and then it's like, oh shit, are we gonna get like a Revelations sequel as well? You know what I mean? Like that would probably be the third movie or something, or a spin-off maybe. You know, like all that stuff, man. Like you throw everything in there without throwing everything in there. It's all lines. It's all just dialogue that the actors or you know that the characters are talking about. Um, yeah. What else? I mean, that's pretty much it for the most part, you know? As far as like you know what I mean? Like I said, the story's all there, so all the things that you want to talk about, like getting to uh 2, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, getting to the Raccoon City stuff and everything like that would all kind of just happen. Like I would say you allude to those things, but you don't lean into them at all. You just allude to them. They're just lines. They're just one-offs. They're just like real quick. You know what I mean? You just throw them in. You know, so that way we know Chris has a sister. We know Wesker's a traitor. And we know that Raccoon City is dying. We know that Hunk is coming. We know that Raccoon City PD is recruiting because the city's falling and they need more cops. We know, you know what I'm saying? Like you get all this stuff going in there, man. Okay. There we go. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying about like maybe I want to create more content, like actually write these things out, maybe write a script out so that way I could say it. And that way I have a script written. You know what I mean? Instead of being just like someone who talks haphazardly and stuff like that, but actually put this stuff together. And not even out of the love, not even because I want to make a Resident Evil movie. It's because I want to make good content. And I think everybody wants to, but maybe it just gets lost in the mid production. You know what I mean? Like I don't think anybody was like, "Yo, let's sabotage this movie so it sucks." But definitely somebody was somebody in charge clearly was like, "Nah, this is the way it is." And everybody else was like, all right, well, fuck it, we can't do anything about it, so we're gonna do it this way. But man, like whatever. Um, but yeah, that way you just kind of tell the stars team members. That way, when you get to a sequel, and you kind of maybe mix together 2 and 3, and you get to that point, you know, everything is like you have um, you have Mr. X, you have the Nemesis. You know what I mean? Since you already got the Tyrant in the first movie, now you have you can kind of just extrapolate on the Tyrant and make it Mr. X for Chris and Jill, and then you make it Nemesis for or Chris and Claire, and then you make it Nemesis for Jill, and things like that. You know what I mean? And yeah, man, I just you make all that stuff then, um, and you treat it the same way. Like I haven't put too much thought into 2 and 3 just because again, but I would take it with the same approach of like, where the story's going, that Leon goes to uh, be the work for the president, and that Claire continues to look for Chris and ends up on Code Veronica Island. Um, like where all these stories are going, so you work on 2 and 3 with those in mind. Oh my God. Oh shit! I just squeezed out way too much ink. But yeah, that would probably be a conversation for a different time. Just because, damn, it's already 7:30. Fuck, I gotta kind of wrap this up, guys. Let me get this last color in.
there was a Strangers one, but it wasn't a video game property. You know, he did take something that he didn't write, something that was already there in a movie, and made a sequel to it and put an '80s spin on it, and I kind of liked it, but it still wasn't like the greatest. I wasn't like, oh my god, this guy is a horror fucking master. I don't think he captures horror and suspense as much as he let on to. This was not horror. He tried to sell people into tear them being like, I know horror. I know action. This was another.
But yeah, man.
This was another example of somebody who thinks.
But yeah, you just yeah. The one thing that I think about and I think would be the most interesting part that could separate the movies from the video games is the video games they're one player and but you have two characters. So you have two characters in a one player game and then you have A story, B story, or you know, the A playthrough and the B playthrough. And I think that would probably be the most interesting part about being able to tell the same story but just differently is because you have these characters, whether they're in the same room together simultaneously going through the events of the video game, or if they're, you know, splitting up here and there and who's going to get what. You know what I mean? Like, we know Jill's going to get the lockpick. We know Chris is going to get the lighter. And then I would just look at the video game, you know, playthroughs and see when did those items become most like relevant and prevalent to the game, and then I would apply that to the story, and then that okay, so this character would have to be at this point, or will have to be at this part of the mansion because they have the lockpick or they have the lighter. So we want this character to do this stuff because that was where the lighter came in handy. This is where the lockpick came in handy. Um,
And I'll be basically back the second week of December. Right. Yeah. So this is kind of like, you know, just announcing that, you know, the show's back. We're here. John's back. And
but yeah, man, that's I think that would be the way that you would have to write the actual, you know, the meat of the movie of like where are these characters gonna be. But you still only have like you focus on Jill and Chris, and you know Barry and Wesker are there, and whatever other team members. I know some of them are there. That, you know, the guy who gets shot by Wesker, and then the guy who turns into a zombie out in the balcony or wherever it is. Uh, you know, you can have the Lisa Trevor thing kind of going on if you want. Um,
I'm already getting ready for the comments. I know it's going to be back and forth, but that's okay. But, you know, I guess we'll see what the hell the fucking future brings as far as the live action stuff. But, man, the Netflix thing hasn't even been talked about. I don't even want to think about that right now. I just want to cleanse the palate. Yeah, I just want to cleanse the palate a little bit and just forget about live action Ari for a little bit. But yeah, that's it for the show, guys.
but yeah, I think it's not that it can't be done. It's not that it's impossible. It just becomes a situation of too many cooks in the kitchen, and then the head chef has no clue what they're doing. Whoever the head chef is, I don't want to point any fingers. I worked with enough companies to know that okay, there is always a it always ends up being the shithead who's in charge of something that they have no business being in charge of, and you know what I mean. It just makes for a not fun time, and then when it comes to these movies and making these movies and things like that, it makes for a not fun experience, a not fun movie. And you know, it's criminal. It's criminal at this point. You know what I mean? Especially since Resident Evil has already gotten a series of movies, and we should have already learned from those movies like what to do, what not to do. And I think that's the most disappointing part is learning like we haven't learned. We meaning human beings and content creation, and you know the the game players, or you know the people that make the content. like the fact that nobody could stop this Resident Evil movie from ending up that way is really disheartening. You know, it's like how the fuck does this happen at this point of the game when it happened the first time? Because I mean, I would still, I think that the first Resident Evil movie, you know, with Michelle Rodriguez and Mila Jovovich, is still probably the best one that we have. But it's just the character of Alice that really throw those movies for a loop. Shit. Yeah. And that's just it. It's like we didn't need an Alice. Like I think Mila Jovovich would have made a perfect Jill. Like I would have loved Mila Jovovich to have played Jill's character. You know what I mean? She has the look. She would have had, you know, sequels. Uh,
And I could easily get out a couple a week, but I obviously don't want that clogging up the main channel. So feel free to follow the link in the description to the new channel for more videos to sleep to. And I'll keep the ones that are already on the channel here for a while longer, and eventually just have everything in one place. But I guess the point of this video was to definitively state that I won't be covering Dark Souls anymore. At least not for a long while.
um,
It's time for me to move on. And obviously we have a few more months until Elden Ring. So I'm not entirely sure what I'll cover until then and alongside of. But I think I have a few ideas. But if you were simply only ever here for Dark Souls and want to unsubscribe and move on as well, I completely understand. But if you just simply enjoy the lore found in all kinds of video games, then I think you'll be as excited about the future of this channel as I am. I also think that a great starting point is to make use of the YouTube Shorts and just make some quick random lore fact videos about a bunch of different games. And I'll likely upload them on TikTok too, as that's basically the status quo for creators right now. So if you have one, follow me there too. It means a lot. Finally, I just want to say thank you again to Dark Souls one last time, and to every single one of you who joined me on this awesome first chapter.
but yeah, I don't want to focus on the old movies so far. I mean, we kind of know the story there and where it's gone. We kind of heard all the takes and things like that, like whether you liked them or not, whether you've seen them or not. Like we kind of, if you're a Resident Evil fan, you kind of know like where those movies stand. So when you know this opportunity for a second set of movies that we're gonna be starting from the beginning and shit like that, I mean the prospects are super exciting. And yeah, man, they just yeah, they did something.
Definitely this season. I'm gonna be the coach, the cheesiest of all time. Season. Expert playthrough of Elden Ring. I'm calling it that because this was recorded in pretty much the last hour of the last day of the network test, so I was desperately trying to get a good playthrough under my belt at the last minute. In my last video, I had 30 minutes to showcase the game as best I could, so I spent a lot of time planning and playing it out perfectly. For this playthrough, I kind of had to improvise a bit more. This fight with Bahrain actually ended up being a really good example of Elden Ring's combat at its best. It uses all the new techniques like guard counters and jumping attacks, but also, you know, the Dark Souls favorites like just good spacing and weapon range. So apparently,
Um,
Yoda's dialogue is written by Miyazaki himself. It's just funny to imagine
yeah, man, I think
calls all of his
that would be the
fans
shit.
nameless rats
Like to
years
just
ago.
I should definitely write a script out for these things, not just for what I want to say, but like these movies. Like if I'm thinking it's decent, um, yeah, I should definitely do it. I know I haven't a lot on my plate as far as like this Bayonetta study and then all my content that my original content that I haven't gotten to in the last couple months. I just realized this is probably like episode 57 or like the 57th part of the Bayonetta study, and I'm maybe halfway through. So there's definitely going to be like 100 parts to this Bayo study by the time we get to the end of it. So I know I have a lot on my plate as far as like this Bayo study goes, as well as um working on my original content, any further studies that I will be doing, um, and all that good stuff. All right. All right. What's today's date? 4th. All right, man. Well, I hope I kind of made a little bit of sense. Hopefully, my mind and my thoughts weren't too jumbled up. But yeah, man, that's gonna be the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed my little thoughts on how to like kind of adapt a movie and a story. And I know I'm just talking haphazardly, so that's why I kind of want to write a bit of a story. And I think it will be fitting for my content, just all in all, even with my original IP and things like that. Just because, yeah, it'd be a good test to see how good my stories actually are before I actually tell my original stories. Uh, because yeah, if I could write a decent script for content that we know, then I can feel a little bit more confident in the content that is my original stuff that you guys don't know about. Anyone listening to this doesn't know about um, yet. In I can feel good about that and be like, oh, okay, well, if people are feeling this content, then they'll feel that content, and and yeah, so. Yeah, something to think about. I'll have to figure that out. But I'm figuring out a few things, like the camera and where I want this channel to go and my content to go and everything that I want to kind of create in 2022. It's coming right up, guys. So I want to thank you all for watching. I'm G Mr. Drew. It's at G Mr. Drew on all socials. Follow, like, and subscribe. And yeah, man, just check out all those links. They're in my bio, along with my website, gmsdrew.art. Contact me through there, and consider joining my Patreon, starting for as low as $1 a month. But starting at $3, you can get character commissions, portraits, and just things like that for me if you want. And yeah, thanks for watching, y'all. Love you. Peace.